Good evening, and welcome again to Hallowicked's Arcade of Terror, where we only take on games that feature cannibals, trolls, golems, hydras, witch doctors, mad scientists, and anything else capable of sending a chill down your spine. And as always, we do it all for the glory of Nazmaldun. As it pertains to our previous episode, Splatterhouse 3, we acknowledge that mistakes do get made. I made the mistake of letting one of my junior-most recruits, Spleen Chewer, bring me a copy of the game. Little did I know that cartridge was clearly labeled as a danger to anyone who would play it. But fear not, the cartridge has been contained and will vex us no further. And neither will Spleen Chewer. Here at the arcade, we're not ones to throw out the baby with the bathwater. In fact, we don't allow babies on the premises at all, because they disgust me. So not only are we keeping the Sega Genesis, we'll be playing it this very evening. Tonight, we will be playing 1994's Haunting, starring Polterguy, a game tailor-made for the Arcade of Terror. You take on the role of a ghost, whose job it is to terrify residents into fleeing from their own homes. But we're not just playing this game tonight. We'll be joined by a very special guest in our first ever, socially distant approved creator interview. Allow me to preface this by letting you know the person we will be interviewing, lead artist Chaz Ball, has been dead and buried for well over 23 years. Our attempts to track down living members of the creative team were either fruitless or ended in a bloodbath. Chaz very well may be our last hope to get some answers on this diabolical work of art. So to speak to Chaz, we'll be using this jar of souls to bring forth his essence. And now, a simple incantation from our Necronomicon will bring forth Chaz's essence, trap it in the jar of souls, so that we may interview him. Tiscobada, Ictorabamoska, Hecta, Odanai, Dascorabada, Tico, Chicovada, Chicadaba, Shabadaso, Chadoto, Kabata, Look, it appears to have worked. Chaz, can you hear me?
This is Chaz Ball. I was murdered. My soul cannot be at peace until my killer is found and punished. Have you come to free me from this purgatory?
Chaz, this is Hallowicked of Hallowicked's Arcade of Terror. We'd like to get your thoughts on a game we're playing today, Sega Genesis Haunting, starring the Polterguy. You worked on it, right?
What?
Yeah, 1994, you remember, right?
Didn't you hear what I said? I was murdered! My soul cannot be at rest!
Chaz, that's really not why I brought you here today.
My family, my friends, they need to know the truth of what happened to me.
Well, the people would like to know what your thought process was in creating this masterwork of art. Whoa, Chaz, calm down. Look, I really don't have the resources to be solving 20-plus-year-old murders. Bear with me.
It's just, you have all these guys here. You can't spare one of them to look into it? I even have my own list of suspects we can start with.
Well, Chaz, look, do the interview, and I'll see what I can do.
Fine.
As Polterguy, you possess common household items, which result in scares for the Sardini family. Get a family member scared enough, and they will flee from the room they're in. Your job is to corral them into a room that has an exit and send them screaming through the door.
Those are called frightums.
My mistake. Frightums range from goofy to gory, and There's a vast variety of them to spook the Sardinis into exodus. When they flee a room, you collect the green goo left behind to sustain your presence.
That is called ecto.
I see your murder did not impact your memory.
So Chaz, tell me, how many of the frightums did you come up with yourself?
Most of them, actually. I had a pretty good mind for coming up with new ones, usually in the shower.
You were a pretty sick individual, weren't you, Chaz?
Not as sick as the person or persons who murdered me in cold blood, or someone who would summon me from the dead to talk about a 30-year-old video game instead of helping me move on to the next world.
Whoa, well, speaking of the next world, let's check out stage number 2.
The game plays out in a 3/4 view that shows off a great level of detail in the home you are haunting.
Thanks. I spent a lot of time drawing up the architecture and furniture.
It does show. Did you experiment with any other art styles?
Originally, the game was a straight-up platformer, but I'll be the first to tell you, it sucked.
Fascinating. This is the type of candor I recalled your soul for.
So tell us, what made you go with the isometric art style?
I don't remember. It was a very long time ago. I haven't thought about much other than my untimely death since that happened. This is really important.
Chaz, the fans want to know your process. Is this how you want to be remembered?
The truth of it, the real truth, I picked the isometric style because I knew it would take longer to produce. I could clock more overtime and have some job security. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Wow, Chaz, you really do have a dark side, don't you?
Hallowicked, you don't know the half of it. That could be its own interview. One I would refuse to do after this BS.
Have you considered membership in the Church of Nazmaldoon?
If your ectometer is fully depleted, you are sent to the underworld, where you must avoid perils to recollect your ecto and escape. Did you create the artwork for this part also?
No, that was a junior artist named Nick Jacobini. I personally thought his output wasn't up to snuff.
Jacobini?
Yeah, that's what I thought when he was introduced to the team. Aside the weird name, this dude would take 2-hour lunch breaks every day.
Sounds like you two were not on the best of terms. Is it possible he's the one who murdered you?
I've considered it over the years, but I think Nick lacked that killer instinct in both his artwork and his ability to kill people.
Well, I can tell you, Nick was one of the people we met with to be interviewed for this episode.
Really? How was he? Where is he staying? Maybe I can go haunt him into helping me.
He was doing well when my crew arrived. He is staying in several different locations now.
Hey, so is this what you think the underworld's gonna look like when you get there?
I'm sorry, I really don't have time for this. Just put me back in the jar.
Do you have somewhere else to be? Are you expecting to be summoned by someone else?
That is not what I meant.
Let me ask you, in the 23 years you've been dead, how many times have you been summoned?
You're a real jerk, man.
0, so that's 0, isn't it? 0, right?
Can we just finish the game?
Sure, fine.
The final boss is the Sardini family dog who has been haranguing Polterguy and protecting the family throughout most of the game. He mutates into a horrendous beast that you must face in single combat.
The dog was actually modeled after my own dog, Mr. Sprinkleman. Obviously, the part where he turns into a monster was fiction.
Oh yes, I remember that dog. He snapped at me in the garage.
You do?
The dog in the game. He barks at you and drains your ectometer. He got me in the garage.
Oh, I thought you meant the real Mr. Sprinkleman.
Of course not. I never saw your dog in my entire life.
So let me ask, what was the inspiration behind...
That is quite enough. My killer could be out roaming the streets, and we're here wasting time. Get your guys together, let's go.
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be able to spare any of these guys. We had about 10 of them die the other week. They're overworked, they're behind schedule. I can't do it.
What about that guy over there? He doesn't look busy. He isn't doing anything.
Who, Bloodcough? No, that's one of my top guys. I can't possibly let him go.
Unbelievable.
I'd like to thank our guest, Chaz Ball, for taking a look back on a game that, in some ways, wouldn't you say was prophetic about your own life?
Oh, is that funny to you? I helped make a game about a ghost and now I'm a ghost?
If I'm being honest, yeah, that's a little funny.
I've been in limbo for the last 23 years. No contact from a living being. No way to communicate. No way to express my torment. But I have to say, this interview has been the worst part of that entire experience.
Oh, Chaz, I think you need to calm down.
No, I don't need to do anything. I don't think I could have been summoned by anyone with less of an interest in helping me find my killer, other than maybe the killer himself. Wait a minute, how did you get me in that jar of souls? How did you know where my final unresting place was?
I think maybe with that, it's time for the lid to go back on the jar.
I'll haunt you forever!
As you can plainly see, the jar of souls is now empty. Chaz managed to free himself, immediately possessed Bloodcough, who jumped out a very high window, and we can only assume is out there plotting his revenge against myself. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. As for the haunting, I cannot recommend this game enough. Possibly the most accurate poltergeist simulator ever created. Make sure you track it down before you die. Until we meet again, remember to follow me on Twitter, buy a t-shirt, I'm gonna have to feed some new recruits, and tune in to IWTV for our next episode. And of course, all glory Naz Muldoon. Alright boys, that's a wrap. Good job. So we get started on the window. Anyone know, do we got a number for an exorcist? Exorcist, it's gonna be too expensive. Let's just track him down and kill him. Alright, agreed? Good job.